when people criticize, say, what DOGE is doing, we say, well, which part specifically? Because we put all of the actions of the DOGE team on the doge.gov website and on the DOGE handle on X. So we post the receipts. When we get
they need to have a video explaining it. That's the problem, is that, see, Elon doesn't understand this maybe, but people can't read. Nobody can read. So you can't have it written down because nobody's going to know what it says. It has to be, you know, like a TikTok, a YouTube video, or something like that.
Alright, so apparently the problem with Doge is that people just can't read. And hey, as someone who used to play Yu-Gi-Oh!, that's a problem I'm intimately familiar with confronting. Now, I could be an idiot and act like I don't understand that Asmon is talking about reading comprehension, or I could come at this in good faith and demonstrate where reading comprehension actually gets you with the receipts provided, and be that video Asmon wants that attempts to explain what Doge is actually doing, or at least what they say they're actually doing. But to do that, we're going to have to take a look at the DOGE website. The first thing you'll see on the DOGE website is their tweets, and everyone knows tweets equals receipts, right? No? Alright, well, let's give them the benefit of the doubt that these receipts are contained within the tweets. As you can see, our very first tweet here claims that they've deactivated over 200,000 unused or unneeded credit cards across 16 federal agencies currently participating in the pilot of their audit, that there are 4.6 million active cards and accounts, and they've posted a chart. So, to be clear, the tweet is not a receipt, it's a claim. The chart is supposed to be the receipt, so let's see what the chart says. On the chart, we have a list of 16 agencies. That's a good start. Let's look a little closer. The second, third, and fourth column are split into two parts, and this is a little unintuitive, so let's break it down. The top part of those three columns are cards at a $1 limit or canceled. This represents that action claimed to have been taken by Doge. So, we're already off to a bad start because a $1 spending limit is not canceled. It's kind of funny, don't get me wrong, but even Doge knows it's not the same as canceled, or else they would not have provided the distinction. The second part are cards with greater than a $1 limit. So say you're a teacher and get a $100 spending card to use for supplies for your classroom, that could potentially fall under this and be touted as waste being cut. Looking at the number of cards under education, it's reasonable to assume that specific example isn't being used here, but I just want to point out the obfuscation. We're not being told what's being saved. It's entirely plausible that all of the cards on this list were cards with relatively low set spending limits that have already reached that limit, and canceling them or limiting them to $1 does nothing, which would mean Doge is getting paid to do nothing. But let's keep going. Surely there is something here. The next column is pre-pause. Presumably this is referring to President Trump's pause on federal spending that was rescinded 2 days later, and we can see that before the pause, Doge had not limited or canceled any of the cards, and none of the cards have been limited or canceled yet. So this tells us literally nothing, because obviously Doge could not have limited or canceled cards before they started limiting and canceling cards. The next column is March 10, 2025. This tells us the number of cards that Doge has limited or canceled as of March 10, 2025, and the number of cards that have yet to be canceled or limited as of March 10, 2025. So, finally, we have some data. We can see how many cards have been limited or canceled, how many haven't, and in the fifth column, we have the percentage of the total cards that have been limited or canceled as of March 10th, 2025, which is just the March 10th Doge number over the total number of cards before Doge got to Dogen. We can also see that the chart is split into two sections, one for purchase cards, one for travel cards. So here we can see they've limited or canceled 33.6 thousand payment cards and 171,000 travel cards to get their figure of over 200,000 cards. However, keep in mind that they said they deactivated that many cards, but some unclarified amount of these cards were not deactivated. they had their credit limit set to $1. There's no indication of what the credit limits were prior other than greater than $1. And we're not told if the credit limits had already been reached yet. So there's no way of knowing how, if at all, this saves money or increases efficiency. Now, let's compare the receipt to the claim. More than 200,000 cards canceled, not according to their own receipt. But that's nothing compared to the supposed 4.6 million cards and accounts, because their own chart says there's only 59,000 left that haven't been canceled or limited. That's an overestimation of 7,797%. To clarify, that means if we use what they gave us as a receipt, they overstated the amount of cards and accounts left by more than 77 times the value the chart shows. Now, to back up a bit, I can imagine some of you are thinking that setting the credit limit of a card to $1 is basically the same as canceling it. Now, allow me to explain to you why it's not. If the credit limit of a card can be set to $1, it can also be reset to the previous limit or set even higher. If the intention was to cancel the cards, that's what they would have done. Assuming we can trust this chart, what's more likely is that these cards couldn't be canceled because they're used for vital functions within the agencies, so the credit limit was changed to $1 to prevent further spending temporarily. Which would mean that it's reasonable to assume that despite what the tweet claims about these cards being inactive or unused, these cards are not unused. There's no reason to set a $1 credit limit on a card unless you expect it to be used. And the only reason not to cancel it that I can think of is if you still intend for it to be used later. So the only claim made by the Doge tweet this chart could be argued as a receipt for is that there are 16 agencies involved in the audit. But here's the thing. This chart is just another claim. They don't provide any evidence that this is what has actually happened. It's just them saying more and expecting it to be believed, which, as I think I have conclusively demonstrated, they have a tendency to do with things they know to be false. And I understand the sentiment of not wanting to believe they would fabricate evidence to support bogus claims, but this is habitual. Let's take another look at their website so we can get a look at how they're claiming they're saving money. To do that, we'll click on the Savings tab, where we're greeted with "We saved $105 billion," which translates to $652 per taxpayer, assuming there are 161 million taxpayers. Now, that's 7 million more taxpayers than 2022, but the country's growing, baby, so maybe they're right with that estimate. Are they telling us how they got that estimate? Hell no, but at least the math checks out, assuming everything is correct. But that doesn't tell us how they got that 105 billion. To do that, we have to scroll down to the wall of receipts. And I didn't even notice this until I was editing, but there's a little blurb where it says 15 billion saved in contracts, and we can scroll down to see they're saying there's an additional 15 billion in grants and 468 million in real estate. So here they're showing 30.5 billion in savings, which is more than 3 times less what they said on the homepage. I don't know, maybe the remaining 74.5 billion is tied up in the leaderboard for specific agencies, but there's no way to know because clicking on them does nothing. Anyway, this is where we're shown how much money they're claiming to have saved. Hot dog, $3.2 million. Oh, wait, that's the value of the contractor agency. Oddly enough, when we go to the savings portion of the website and scroll down to the wall of receipts, we're on the value tab instead of the savings tab. So let's click over to the savings tabs, and oh, would you look at that, that $3.2 million value we were just shown was for something they're reporting $0 in savings for. All right, let's look at something they are reporting savings for, like this 145 grand from the Bureau of Land Management. Now, I'm going to have to blur some things out because the documentation here basically doxes a private contractor that uses a residential address in their contract. I don't want to speculate as to why they wouldn't redact the name, address, and phone number of this person. So let's just give them the benefit of the doubt that they're lazy, which will be pretty apparent once we look at the contract. The first thing we get is a screenshot of the contract and the statement that there was $145,000 in savings from a $440,000 contract. And look, the screenshot shows us a contract with a total contract value of $440,000 and an exercise value of $295,000. Now, I'm no contract lawyer, but the action stated in the screenshot is termination complete or partial, so I'm a guess that means, or at least what DOGE wants us to think it means, is that the $295,000 is coming out of the $440,000 contract, leaving us with the stated $145,000 in savings. Now, wouldn't it be funny if DOGE put up a fake screenshot of the contract? Surely they wouldn't. When I click View on FPDS, surely the contract won't be different from the screenshot. There's no way DOGE would create fake images of fake charts and screenshots that could easily be spotted by a layperson such as myself. It can't be that easy to lie to people on the internet, right? Right? Hey, look at that little rock. Shout out to my homies in the 501, but look at that. Suddenly, that $440,000 with $295,000 coming out of it for a saving of $145,000 became a $382,500 contract with $237,500 coming out of it for $145,000 in savings. I don't get it. Why inflate the value in the fake screenshot? I mean, why make a fake screenshot in the first place? But why inflate the value? $145,000 from a $382,500 contract is a 38% savings, and it's a 33% savings from $440,000. It seems like this is meant to be a renegotiation, so it'd look more impressive to use the actual contract value. If it's a $145,000 difference either way, what purpose does claiming it was a $440,000 contract serve unless you're expecting people to think what they see in the value tab you show them by default is in savings? Oh. And remember what I said about them being lazy. Not only are there large portions of this contract that are just not filled out, not only did they not redact the personal information, not only is the description of the requirement EEO-DEIA support, which, if you don't know, is equal opportunity employment and diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, which makes it sound like the reason for the action is to require more DEI, but the contract is with the FMCS, which provides arbitrators for work disputes to avoid costly drawn-out court cases, and the DOGE website says it's with the Bureau of Land Management, which governs federal lands. How do you get these things mixed up and have no one notice before you put it on the website? So DOGE makes claims that are bullshit according to their receipts, and they fake their receipts according to the receipts of their receipts. So someone explain to me why anyone should be expected to believe that DOGE is doing the things they say they are doing, or that their receipts are actually receipts. There's a clear pattern of open dishonesty here that I'm intimately familiar with from having a gotcha channel. All the kids in the audience can learn a valuable lesson here. Bulls on the internet will make claims and provide evidence for those claims that does not support those claims because they know most people won't bother to look close enough to see it doesn't support it. And those that do can easily be brushed off. They will also, in the face of evidence, claim there is no proof for the same exact reason. That is clearly what is happening here with DOGE. On the internet, people do not care about evidence. If you want to believe something, then it's true. If you don't, it's not. If it comes with receipts, those receipts say what you want them to, even if they don't, and there are no receipts, even if there are, when you don't want to believe it. Asmon's right. We're basically illiterate. But it's not because we're incapable of reading comprehension, it's because we have been discouraged at every turn from using it by people who appeal to or against our sentiments and ideologies in the effort to influence us to arrive at conclusions without thinking. And it's not just reading. Videos don't solve this. And as evidence, I encourage you to look at any Twitch chat. Now, I want to be upfront about something. I'm a conservative, and that's why I think it's so important to point out this BS from DOGE. Politically, conservatives support the Constitution, which DOGE is subverting. Conservatives want smaller government in the hands of elected representatives with checks and balances. DOGE is currently exercising unprecedented government overreach that is unchecked by any elected official, and if you think Trump is paying an iota of attention to what they're doing, you're a person that is, let's see here, less advanced than usual or expected compared to others your own age. Have you seen what he does when he signs an executive order? What's this? Sounds good. Signed. And it's staffed by kids that have voted in one election and have passed the rigorous hiring process of holding their breath for 10 seconds while Elon is down their throats. Being a conservative means wanting to cut waste, lower spending, and respecting our laws and Constitution while doing it. But DOGE's GSA employees earn, on average, $128.5 thousand a year to apparently cancel or set cards to a $1 spending limit that may or may not be unused, many of which will likely have their spending limits reset, claim that they are canceling them, and save us $0 on a $3.2 million contract. And I don't believe for a second they're telling the truth about Elon being unpaid when they couldn't even tell the truth about whether he was running it. They're firing hordes of employees only for them to be hired back. Firing and hiring people cost money. Their disregard for the law has resulted in 24 federal court cases so far, which cost a load of money. That's federal agencies spending taxpayer money they otherwise wouldn't, on top of federal court cases costing taxpayer money they otherwise wouldn't, and a brand new federal agency, aka more bureaucracy, born from a more than a decade-old meme who seemingly just exists to BS people on Twitter at the expense of taxpayers, that has tricked conservatives into supporting something so clearly against conservative political values by blowing the DEI dog whistle that's so blatant in its deception that it makes you wonder if the world's just forgotten how to pay attention.